If you factor x to the third minus 8 in the form x minus a times x squared plus bx plus c, what is the value of a? In other words, what is the second term of the binomial when you factor that? Well, that x to the third minus 8, that is a difference of two cubes. You have two perfect cubes with a minus sign between them. That is a difference of two cubes. It's in the form of a to the third minus b to the third. And that factors into the form of a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. So once again, we're looking for the second term of that binomial. In this case, we're looking for b, but in this form up here, we're looking for a. So don't get confused there. Simply looking for the second term of the binomial. So we're going to factor that x to the third minus 8. Again, that's in the form of a to the third minus b to the third. That factors into this form, a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. So you need to pick out what a and b are. If a to the third is x to the third, then the first term of the binomial, the a, is x. And if b to the third is 8, b, the second term of the binomial that we're looking for, is the cube root of 8, which is 2. So that factors into x minus 2. And then again, if a is x, a squared would be x squared. If a is x and b is 2, ab would be 2x. And if b is 2, b squared is going to be 4. So that factors into x minus 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 4. But the most important thing, the one we're looking for, is the second term of the binomial, and that is 2. Letter A. The product of three integers, x plus 2, and x minus 5 is 240. What are the integers? So these three multiplied together to equal 240. That means x times x plus 2 times x minus 5 equals 240. Now to take out the parentheses, you can do it a couple different ways. You could distribute the x through that first set of parentheses, or you could use the FOIL method of distributed property with those two binomials. It's up to you. I'm going to distribute the x, take x times x plus 2, that is x squared plus 2x, times x minus 5 equals 240. Now to multiply these two binomials, use the FOIL method or distributed property. If you do that, you're going to get x to the third minus 5x squared plus 2x squared minus 10x equals 240. Go back through and combine the like terms. Negative 5x squared and 2x squared, if you combine those, that would be negative 3x squared. So you have x to the third minus 3x squared minus 10x equals 240. If you're solving for x, you want to get everything to one side equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 240 from each side. When you do that, you get x to the third minus 3x squared minus 10x minus 240 equals 0. Now you might try to factor this by grouping. So group the first two terms together and factor out a common factor of x squared. X squared is a common factor, and when you take that out, it's going to be x minus 3 in parentheses. Then group the last two terms together and factor a negative 10 out. But here's the problem. You're not going to get the same thing in the parentheses. You're going to get x plus 24 in parentheses. So that's not going to work. Factoring by grouping is not going to work. In other words, this is not going to factor. And if this doesn't factor, you have to go to the graphing calculator. Graph that equation on a graphing calculator. You're going to see something like this. Now this is zoomed in. You're not seeing the entire graph, but you're seeing what you need to see, and that is where does it hit the x-axis. Because when you have this equal to 0, that 0 represents the value of y. When the value of y is equal to 0, the value of x is 8. So that's really what we're after here are the x-intercepts, and there's only one, x equals 8. So it's hitting the x-axis at 8. That means x equals 8, and then you can get x plus 2 and x minus 5. If you know x equals 8, x plus 2 would be 10, and x minus 5 would be 3. And now you know the answer is letter I, 8, 10, and 3. Your brother is 3 years older than you. Your sister is 4 years younger than you. The product of your ages is 1872. How old is your sister? We're going to let x equal your age, because usually whatever comes after the word than is what you let x equal. If you find the word than, it says your brother is 3 years older than you, and your sister is 4 years younger than you. So again, usually, not always, but usually whatever comes after the word than is what you let the variable equal, x equal here. So x equals your age. Now it says your brother is 3 years older than you. If you are x, then he would be x plus 3. He's 3 years older than you. And your sister is 4 years younger than you. So if you are x, then she would be x minus 4. 4 years younger than you. The product of your ages is 1,872. So multiply those together. X times x plus 3 times x minus 4. That is equal to 1,872. Now to multiply those, take out the parentheses. You could distribute the x or multiply those two binomials. It doesn't matter. I'm going to distribute the x and get x squared plus 3x times x minus 4 equals 1872. Multiply these two binomials together with the FOIL method or distributive property. When you do that, you get x to the third minus 4x squared plus 3x squared minus 12x, again, equals 1872. Go back through and combine the like terms, negative 4x squared and 3x squared. If you combine those, that would be negative x squared. So we have x to the third minus x squared minus 12x equals 1872. If you're solving for x, remember, you want to get everything to one side equal to 0. So move that 1872 to the left side by subtracting 1872 from each side. Get x to the third minus x squared minus 12x minus 1872 equals 0. If you're going to try factoring by grouping, you could group the first two terms together and factor out an x squared, but inside the parentheses, that has to be the same as what you get when you factor out a common factor of the last two terms. And you can see that's not going to happen. So if it doesn't factor, you have to go to the graphing calculator. When you go to the graphing calculator and you graph that equation, now that's a zoomed in look on the graphing calculator. You're not seeing the entire graph. But again, you're seeing what you need to see, and that is where does it hit the x-axis? Because that's the same as solving this equation for x. We have y equal to 0. We want to find out what the value of x is when y is 0. So you can see it's hitting the x-axis. If you trace that, zoom in on it a little more, you're going to see that is hitting at 13. So basically, that's all you need to know. X equals 13. So if x equals 13, remember, what are we looking for? What are we finding? We're finding out how old is your sister. Well, your sister up here is x minus 4. So if you are 13 and she's 4 years younger than you, then she is going to be 9. So x minus 4 equals 9. That's really what we're looking for, and that is letter A. What are the real roots of x to the third plus 8 equals 0? Roots, zeros, solutions, x-intercepts, they all mean the same thing. Call them what you want. That x to the third plus 8, that is a sum of two cubes. You have two perfect cubes, x to the third and 8, those are perfect cubes. With a plus sign between them, that is a sum of two cubes. That's in the form of a to the third plus b to the third. That factors into the form of a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. So to factor this, you have to figure out what a and b are. If a to the third is x to the third, then a would be the cube root of that. The cube root of x to the third is x. So wherever there's an a, that's going to be x. And if b to the third is 8, b is the cube root of that. That is 2. So wherever there is a b, there's going to be 2. So where there is an a in this form is going to be x. Where there's a b, it's going to be 2. So it's going to be x plus 2. What that factors into is x plus 2. And then, again, a is x, so a squared is x squared. A is x, b is 2, so this ab is going to be 2x. And then if b is 2, b squared is 4. So that factors into x plus 2 times x squared minus 2x plus 4. Now you might try to factor this into two binomials. But you can tell there are no two numbers that multiply to get 4 and add to get negative 2. So it does not factor. You could even try testing it with the discriminant. If you didn't try factoring into two binomials, you could use the discriminant on that to see if you're going to get real solutions with this x squared minus 2x plus 4. We know that binomial x plus 2, when that's set equal to 0, we know that's going to be negative 2. But we're checking this to see if there are any real solutions or real roots or zeros. So if you check the discriminant, take b squared minus 4ac, it's going to be negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. There's going to be 4 minus 16, and that is negative 12. So that discriminant on that is negative. That means you're going to get two imaginary solutions. If you set this equal to 0 and solve for x, you would have two imaginary solutions. Well, that's not what we're after. We're after just the real solutions. And again, back to the beginning, you could tell that doesn't factor because there are no two numbers that multiply to get 4 and add to get negative 2. But if you didn't catch that, you could check it with the discriminant and it will verify it. So x plus 2, set that equal to 0. That's the only one that's going to deliver a real root or real solution. So if you set x plus 2 equal to 0, that is going to be x equals negative 2. And that is the only real root, the only real solution to this equation. Letter G. Which polynomial equation has zeros of 5, negative 3, and 1/2? Well, about the easiest way to do this, and most efficient way, is to graph these with the graphing calculator. So imagine these are all equal to 0 or equal to y. You could graph each one of these. That first one, letter F, x to the third plus 4x squared plus 4x minus 45. That is the graph of that. Letter G, x to the third minus 4x squared plus 4x plus 15. That is the graph on that. Letter H, 2x to the third minus 5x squared minus 28x plus 15. That is its graph. And letter I, 2x to the third plus 5x squared minus 28x minus 45. That is the graph for that. We're looking for zeros, x-intercepts, roots, solutions of 5, -3, and 1/2. So you're looking for the graph that has those roots, those zeros, those solutions of 5, -3, and 1/2. And it is letter H. You have a block of wood with a depth of x units and a length of 5x units and a height of 2x units. You need to cut a slice off the top of the block to decrease the height by 2 units. The new block will have a volume of 480 cubic units. What are the dimensions of the new block, and what is the volume of the slice? So the dimensions of the block right now, before you cut it, would be x, 5x, and 2x. Width is x, length is 5x, and the height is 2x. Volume of a block, which would be a rectangular prism, is length times width times height. Doesn't matter what order you multiply those in, just multiply width, length, and height together. That is the volume. Now remember, you're taking a 2-unit slice off this height. So that height needs to be decreased by 2. So the new height will be 2x minus 2. So the width, the length, and the new height would be x times 5x times 2x minus 2. That is the volume, which is 480. To solve that for x, take out the parentheses, multiply x by 5x, that is 5x squared times 2x minus 2 equals 480. Use distributive property with the 5x squared, multiply 5x squared by 2x, that is 10x to the third, and 5x squared times -2, that is -10x squared. Still equal to 480. If you're solving for x, you want to get everything to one side equal to 0, so subtract 480 from each side. When you do that, you get 10x to the third minus 10x squared minus 480 equals 0. Always look for a common factor to factor out. 10 is a common factor to those 3 terms. If you factor 10 out, divide each term by 10, and that's what goes in the parentheses, x to the third minus x squared minus 48. Move that 10 to the other side by dividing each side by 10, and you get x to the third minus x squared minus 48 equals 0. Now you can try factoring that, but it does not factor. So if it doesn't factor, you have to go to the graphing calculator. When you type that into a graphing calculator, this is zoomed in. What you're looking for is where it hits the x-axis. Because when the value of y is equal to 0, the value of x is equal to 4. So in other words, solving that equation for x, you get 4. So x equals 4. That's really what we're after here. That's the starting point. That is the width. So if the width is 4, the length is 5x. So take 5 times that 4. That gives you a length of 20. Remember, we need to find the dimensions of the new block. So we don't want to know what 2x is. We want to know what 2x minus 2 is. If the width is 4, 2x minus 2 would be 6. It's 8 minus 2, which is 6. What is the volume of the slice? So the slice that was cut off, the volume of that would be 4 by 20 by 2. You cut a 2-inch or a 2-unit slice off. So 4 by 20 by 2, in other words, width times length times that slice that was cut off would be 160 cubic units. So the dimensions of the new block, again, 4, 20, and 6. The volume of the slice would be 160.